one of the things we started to do initially, right after Maria, it was a text. The morning after, I texted some Puerto Rican friends saying, have you heard from your families? Because I couldn't reach one. And 24 hours, 48 hours, now we're all checking in with each other, nothing. So the text happened every day, and there are 40 and 50 of them, and what are we gonna do? Before you know, all of a sudden, one of those texts was like, we should start our own relief efforts because the materials and supplies and provisions aren't making it to the community. It's like, you call your friends. You have a crazy idea, you pick up your phone and you call your crazy friends and they go, okay, I'll call you back. And so this task force was born, and the task force that we pulled together was actually a group of ex-Obama appointees that are now off in different places. They're in Tesla, they're in Google, they're in, you can just imagine why there are tentacles on the island right now, because these are where the connections were. But we called upon our friends who are either political appointees under the administration who had worked either on the White House task force in Puerto Rico or that had done Superstorm Sandy recovery efforts. So we wanted people with experience either understanding Puerto Rico or understanding how to do recovery work. And we banded together about 25 of us, I think we started with. And before you knew it, the federal government couldn't get planes in and out. We were getting planes in and out. I have ball players who figured out what we were doing, saying, I'll get you a plane. We'll fill it with supplies. We were getting flights in and out of Puerto Rico ourselves through Aguadilla, never going through San Juan, had distribution units on the ground, had unemployed men who had nothing to do. We had stipends for gasoline and we had pickup points and names, and we started distribution. We wound up with 4 warehouses and planes that went in and out. And after we thought we had done all that we could do, that we realized how much more there was to do. And then we took our trips to the island and said, we're not even close, right? We're not even close. So that work continues now. That task force continues to operate. My real day job is I do investment work. I still do fund development. I right now work for Hispanics in Philanthropy part-time. I still work with Mrs. Obama part-time on her education efforts because I don't know how to give up my education hat. And the rest of my time I've been dedicating to spending time on the island in my free time to figure out how we tie all these pieces together, the energy that we have here and the needs we have there, and how we make this a bigger tent, because it's not just about the people on the island figuring this out for themselves, it's all of us. There are more of us here now than on the island. So it's now our work.
Thank you, Nancy. AnaMar, can you talk a little bit about, I know Nancy already touched on it, on how you leverage the diaspora for your work?
Definitely. I think, again, it's life before and after Maria. I mean, before Maria, like I said, we definitely knew the importance of us working together. That is the reason I am here. Before Maria, I was basically, I would go to Puerto Rico every single month for work. And just on a pause, and just before that, just a little bit of my background. I actually, like my 2 colleagues here, I worked in government too, in DC, as you can imagine. My 20-year background in DC is federal government, local government. I worked for the governor of Puerto Rico, 2 of them, and then ended up coming here working for CUNY, and now I am doing what I'm doing. But just to give you a little bit of my background. But basically, before Maria, I pretty much went out there. I started meeting with a lot of different people here from all areas, nonprofits in the US, talking to Puerto Ricans who are here and explaining to them what we're doing and explaining to them what are our goals to see if we could partner together in different projects. We worked, talk to foundations, talk to corporations, talk to everyone. Of course, as you can imagine, Puerto Rico, in many cases before Maria, was not in a lot of people's radar with regards to the work, at least that we were doing. And it was really hard at times to get attention. So at the same time, I knew of many other organizations in Puerto Rico, great organizations like Guayacán, like, INE, like Instituto de la Nueva Escuela, many organizations that we knew. Some of them we worked with and some of them we didn't, but many of them, honestly, we were not really working with. We were not collaborating. People didn't really know what anyone else was doing. So then Life After Maria pretty much took all of that work that at times seems like, am I moving? And everyone came out to help. And like Nancy said, I mean, as you all know, I was here, my family was there. We were all going through the same thing, desperate, trying to figure out, I was trying to figure out how to help from here, my office, my colleagues, my entire staff was in Puerto Rico. But pretty much what happened was that all of that work in our case that we did beforehand paid off. And it's been a beautiful moment between all of the bad things that have happened. The most beautiful thing that has happened is, one, that people have come out to figure out how can we help. Two, people have taken an interest, especially on the foundation side, to figure out, okay, let's see, you guys are obviously in a very bad place, not only obviously, we know because of the hurricane, because of the fiscal crisis. So how can we work together? And all of these other organizations, I mean, we were talking about it with Frances and with Nancy. All of us were in Miami. We're finally actually, as organizations in Puerto Rico, coming together to see how we can work. And I'll just give one quick example. I knew of Ciencia PR, for example. Giovanna was an amazing person. And lo and behold, right now we're talking, para Naturaleza, one of the big programs that came out that we're scaling up is reforestation. Some of you may know that our big plan is to actually try to plant 750,000 trees in Puerto Rico in 7 years. So, one of the many people that I've been talking to is Joanna, who again, I knew of her work, she knew of my work. I know we've done a few things together, but she's basically opening up the doors of the School of Forestry at Yale to see if we can talk to some of the experts there. And like that, there are a million different ways. And I know one of the things, and Frances said, many people have come to us to say, how can we help? Because that is the hard part, not to duplicate efforts, but people to feel that, that they're actually contributing in a positive way that makes sense. I have many ideas. I'll share them with you later. But I think one of the big ones, as small as you might think, it's connections. All of the connections help. Frances connected me to the geographer of the U.S. I honestly didn't even really know we have a geographer de Estados Unidos because we need GIS maps. So things like that. On our end, on the organizations of Puerto Rico, what they need to do and what you need to push them, we need to be very clear on our needs. And like they say in Washington, D.C., shovel ready. Not things that now they're going to start coming up with plans there are so many immediate needs. So push to know what are those immediate needs from the organizations in Puerto Rico so you can go out there and help.
I'm so glad you mentioned the connections piece because at the end of the day, somos el reino de conexiones. Like that's what we do, right? It's an anthropological kind of concept that Latinos really function around this concept of personalismo more than anyone else. And I say, where the rest of the world has 6 degrees of 6 degrees of separation, we have 2. Y cuidado, right? Yeah, exactly. So we always figure out a way to do that. I think the most important part of what we're doing right now is trying to tie together efforts. And one of the most beautiful things I've seen in this, I had a mentor once tell me, when you don't worry about who gets the credit, work gets done. That's right. And so I think that we've all gotten past the needing to get credit for anything right now, right? Organizations have kind of put that down and have said what needs to get done. Don't care who gets attention for it, whose name gets in the press, just what needs to get done. And I think that's what's moving this quickly. And there are some folks that are very comfortable with being behind the scenes. We need to know who those folks are. I mean, you guys know what's happening in the communities every day. Finding ways to share that information, because then my job is to figure out, I'll have some philanthropic organization say to me, we want to do X. Who's doing that? I have a meeting with foundations coming up here in New York City that I need to give them a menu of different options because they're going to want to sit around the table and come up with these lovely plans and ideas. I'm saying, no. Here are the things that we need done that are already started, right? We need you to come in here, not create a white paper that's going to give us some idea that for 10 years from now, maybe, possibly we'll get this built, right? It's here's what's happening right now. I'm collecting that information now and would love, if you know of projects like that that are kind of moving already, that's the most help you can provide because I'm just starting to be a matchmaker. Again, my job is to find the right connections, who wants to sponsor and fund what work. So Hispanics in Philanthropy allows me that platform to say, here's the world of foundations and the money they have to give, or individual donors and the things they'd like to do. My job is to make sure we're not getting them to a place where they're writing another research paper. I'm getting you to a shovel-ready project right now, right? Because we need it to happen now. So some of the other things we've been doing is taking service trips to the island. So the last service trip we did, April, we had Secretary Duncan, God love him, he's not even the secretary anymore, came with us, and we brought a group of about 25 people together. We brought mostly ex-appointees who now work in different fields and arenas, couple private sector partners, one that bought like 15,000, enough school supplies for 15,000 kids when they came, stuff like that. So I'll be honest, we used Arnie and his notoriety as a way to attract the right people. And he knew that's what we were using for. I needed a face, and everybody wants to go and hang out and play basketball with the next NBA player, right? So why not? So that's how we got some other private sector partners there. I don't care why they came. Once they got there, they got to see the community at work, and it was love at first sight. Again, if you know folks that are doing things on the island, I have another trip coming up at the end of May with a group of foundations, and I will keep doing these types of trips. What I have found is that's the most, for me, effective way of getting people to not just see the problems, but want to stay involved. Every last one of the people that went to that last service trip are still engaged with Puerto Rico right now. And none of them had ties to the island, with the exception of those of us that organized it. One of them just received their Series B funding, $30 million for their company, and decided they're opening an office in Puerto Rico. That's what I need. So the fact that we can get people there, I don't care, by any means necessary. I'm going to use a bunch of ball players next to host different trips, whatever it takes. But my goal is to get more folks to the island. So if you know what's happening on the island and there are service efforts we can be involved in there, share that too. So between the different funds that are coming together to figure out what they can support and pay for, to different people who want to go see with their own eyes what they can do, because I think folks are feeling like we really want to do something, but we don't trust this administration to tell us what really needs to be done, right? And so a lot of private sector partners are like, so wait till we do a trip. So that's what I want you guys thinking about. And we have a lot of amazing entrepreneurs on the island. And let me tell you something about the importance of that pipeline back. We have more and more young Puerto Rican professionals that are saying, I got no kids, I don't need a house, I can couch surf, I'm going to Puerto Rico to start a business. That's what we need to be building more of, that pathway back.
So I think what I'm going to do is open up the floor, because I know there's going to be tons of questions.
If I can just say real quick, I wanted to let everyone know that Dennis Rivera, who was supposed to be in this panel, he actually, Dennis has many, many hats. One of his hats is he's the president of our board of trustees. And unfortunately, he has a really bad ear infection. And he texted me right before he was planning on coming in through Zoom, but he's not going to be able to join us. And Jorge Silva-Puras will be joining us. He's just on his way.
Okay, let's see. Ma'am.
Me?
Yes.
Hi. In Puerto Rico, we very much felt like the diaspora was in great solidarity with those of us on the island after the impact, or during and after the impact of Hurricane Maria, right? So I think that in terms of concrete things, now that we're past that immediate stage of the basic necessities, we've been talking about with different groups throughout the island. I work with groups in Salinas and Guayana and Solar and with El Puente also. And you may know that El Puente distributed a lot of solar lamps, right? So we want to continue that kind of work. And actually with Solar, we've been working for about 3.5 years with some UPR Mayagüez faculty and other allies on a solar community project. And obviously, and they recommend, and they've actually done a study that indicates that Puerto Rico could meet all of its energy needs using 65% of the rooftops. Right? We don't have enough land to do big solar arrays on land, but we do have what they call recurso techo. And so what we've been thinking very hard about this, obviously, it's hard to get all of that kind of equipment to the island. But one thing that we see as a real possibility is to do a pilot project with solar kits that provide for basic critical, especially medical needs. We saw so many of our elderly and just patients and people with special needs suffering beyond words, right? That needed that access to energy, that basic human right to energy. And what we're trying to do now, and sort of started talking to people at MIT, Dr. David Hsu, and other people who are interested in collaborating on this project, which would provide a few things at once. One is like training capacity or capacity building for local residents on energy literacy in general, energy efficiency and conservation, but also hands-on installation of these solar kits. So that's a project we certainly
So if folks
welcome.
want to be in touch with you and maybe connect after, can you just tell us your name?
Sure, Ruth Santiago.
And it's Coqui Solar.
Yeah,
Okay.
pues, y debajo iniciativa de desarrollo de Bahía de Juegos en Salinas.
Okay.
I'm going to say too, I think it's important that you mention this because we did a meeting with cooperativas and credit unions in Puerto Rico to look at financing options for individual homes. There's some new solar kits that are easy to install, easy to uninstall in case another.
Exactly.
Right, that's the trick, in case another storm comes, because then you lose what you've invested. So we're working with cooperativas to make these easy on and off kits available to the poorest families using credit unions and CDFIs to finance them. And right now there are 662 solar projects in facilities all over the island that need to be moved from emergency to permanent. So we have some work to do.
Okay.
Sure.
I could understand why you are tapping into U.S. Institutions, but for example, when it comes to reforesting, Cuba has been very successful at reforestation, and I think you could tap into that. When it comes to co-ops, Sweden gave Puerto Rico in the 50s aid to start the co-ops, right? So when it comes to forestry, Brazil is a source, right? And so on and so forth. So I think it'd be wise for you to expand.
No, and I appreciate the comments, and any suggestions are more than welcome, especially at this point. We actually have been looking at places, outside of the U.S. for sure. We're actually in conversations with Israel, who's been extremely, they've had a huge reforestation campaign in Israel, and we've been talking to people in Dominican Republic. We've been talking, our organization is actually head of an organization in the Caribbean, so we've been talking to other Caribbean countries about their efforts, but we welcome any suggestions on specific projects or contact that people may have, and that's another way where you can definitely help us, for sure. And I wanted to mention with the solar real quick, with the solar, which you're completely right. Our organization, which solar energy is not really, we did not, again, before and after Maria, everything changes. So one of the things that we've done is we have focused, because obviously we want to be effective. So we focus on really helping 30 communities that are either within or near our nature reserves. And one of the areas, because we partner, again, looking for partners, collaborations, we partner with an organization that created this group called Resilient Power. And our goal is to have 50 community centers with solar panels and water filtration systems. And the reason, in our case, again, we work with the communities, it's just for exactly what you're saying. We want people to kind of see the example. I think a lot of people in Puerto Rico, they might know that solar is important, but they honestly don't know where to start. Like you were saying, financing is extremely important. I remember when President Obama, ARA, the legislation came through, there were a lot of tax incentives for people to get solar panels. And I think that was extremely successful in the US. Obviously, I know in Puerto Rico, I worked with many municipalities at the time because there were a lot of funds for that. We definitely need to look at that and see that as an example.
And please identify yourself.
Thank you. My name is Max. I wanted to bring two things to your attention. One is Casa Pueblo. I'm
Yes.
pretty sure that,
Yes.
are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Because I think it's critical that things come out of Puerto Rico.
Yes.
Not that everything goes into Puerto Rico.
Definitely.
Because it's that ownership, and I think they have a replicable model that is it's right from the culture. The other thing is, I'm curious, are you looking at microgridding? It's something that is happening very much in Vermont, which is very resilient, and particularly in a storm situation, right? Where you know you're going to get other storms no matter what. So, because resiliency is the key to future development. You can't, if your systems go down every time.
Let me address that question and comment.
Who are you?
And I apologize for the late arrival. Today was my last day of class. I teach at Hostos Community College in CUNY, and the students were doing their end of semester presentation. So unfortunately, I could not let them down, right? So I am a bit late, but I do want to address your point. I represent, among other entities, my name is Jorge Silva-Puras. I used to work in the government of Puerto Rico many years ago, 10, 12 years ago. And in that position, I was quite involved in the issue of renewable energy. Imagine 10, 12 years ago, we were trying to do the things that still we have not been able to do. But on the microgrid specifically, I collaborate with an organization called Puerto Rico Puerto, prxpr.org. And one of our key pillars, one of our cornerstones of support is identifying communities in the island where we are developing microgrids, where we are investing in not only for the disaster and catastrophe of Maria, but the next hurricane season, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. We have to think long term, not about rebuilding. I think we need to think about, we have to rethink the island. We need to rethink how we address permanently the issues, particularly in energy. So what we're doing is we have selected 3 communities in particular, one in Culebra, one in Ciales, and one in Naguabo. So what we're doing is we are developing microgrids for all those 3 communities, but we are not stopping there. The intention is, again, thinking of this as being the creation of a resilient community, to some extent a self-sufficient community. We're incorporating entrepreneurship programs, we're incorporating educational programs, we're incorporating sustainability in terms of water. So electricity, of course, is essential. Without electricity, nothing else happens, right? And we're doing with a lot of care, so that those installations can sustain the next 150-mile hurricane winds. So to your point, very well taken. Those 3 communities hopefully will serve as examples, models, so that we can replicate it in all municipalities in Puerto Rico.
And adding to that, there's a municipality now that's looking at a financing structure so that everyone in that community can afford individual solar units that gets financed in some way, leveraged with government funds to take the entire community off the grid.
Jorge, can I ask you to then segue into the other project that you're working on? Because I want folks to know we're doing a lot of connecting dots. So can you talk about Sagrado Global?
Sure, absolutely. My second hat, I have several hats, but my second hat, I am helping and assisting Universidad Sagrado Corazón in San Juan, some of you probably know it, in a program that is intended on maximizing the help that all of us in the diaspora can do to help our island. And this came about right after the hurricane. Right after the hurricane hit, as you know, many university students were affected. And I started a project with Sagrado to create a database of professors, most of them Puerto Rican, but all of them Spanish speaking, most of them Puerto Rican, but there were others from other parts of Latin America. 250 professors. We compiled a database of 250 professors in a matter of a couple of weeks using social media. And those professors offered ad honorem, i.e. without charging any honorarium, to teach students in not only Sagrado, in all universities in Puerto Rico, Mayagüez, Ponce Católica, Turabo, you name it. If you were a student in Puerto Rico who had suffered from the hurricane and you wanted to take tuition-free courses, you could do it. And you could do it with Puerto Rican professors from universities like Harvard, Yale, Chicago, you name it. I mean, it was really very encouraging. Within 6 weeks, we had Sagrado Global, which was a virtual university set up. We offered admission to about 400 students Because of connectivity, of course, not all of them could complete it, but we did complete it for 140 students who did and were able to finish their semesters at no cost to them. And so we learned using technology like the one we're using today, Zoom, that we can have a professor from Harvard, a professor in California, in Silicon Valley, a Puerto Rican professor teaching students in real time, just like we're doing here, in real time about the latest technology. And that's something that we want, as I mentioned earlier, that's something we want to extend way beyond university students. We are thinking of this as a lifelong learning opportunity, because learning never stops, right? And we need to go, even before college years, we need to address intermediate and high school students who don't have the opportunities right now. Can we offer this using technology to a much broader audience? And that's what we're doing.
And I think on that point, and you know, one of, again, and maybe I'm just being way too positive here. I know we have so many problems in Puerto Rico and there's so much still to do. But honestly, the before and after, there have been so many positives that have come out of it. What Jorge is saying is something that probably before the hurricane would have taken years to do because, you know, oh no, you know, technology, you know, from long distance, can we really do that? And what Maria has provided us in many situations, not all of them, of course, but in many situations, is for people to allow themselves to see things a little bit differently, to allow ourselves to try things that probably before we would have not tried. And I'm going to give you a very small example. And, you know, Jorge obviously Zoom, which is the tool that he uses, and now I've been using a lot. I managed staff from here. After the hurricane, it was just crazy. I could not travel to Puerto Rico because if I got there, I didn't know if I was going to be able to get out. My family, my mom actually came here, well, many reasons. So obviously I had to go down for work, but it wasn't every single month like I was going. Ever since then, I basically have a video call with my staff every single day. Something as simple as that. And ever since then, all of my meetings are over video. Some people still are, not sure about that. But I've actually been able to show people that we can continue to the business, even if I'm not there physically, even if we're not there physically. To your point on like not taking everything in to show out, that's one of the things we've been talking at our office. You know, in Puerto Rico, we've learned a lot. And I invite those people like you who are doing tremendous work in Puerto Rico to go out there and start talking also what we've learned, what actually has worked so far. Because, you know, not a lot of people hopefully have gone or go, you know, through this, but we'll be going through this. And we need to showcase whatever things we've done that are successful out there. And the third and last thing that I'll say is that, you know, other organizations right now, again, that before we might not even consider working together, or like Nancy was saying, we would see maybe each other as competitions. It's beautiful to see how one of the initiatives that we're doing with among the group of people that I've been lucky enough to get to know a lot more after Maria from the organizations in Puerto Rico, we really want to learn what each organization is doing. This is not just about Para Naturaleza. You know, what Jorge was mentioning with PRXPR is now working with Para Naturaleza, with Dennis Rivera and a project he's launching. They're completely looking at helping out economic development through the flamenco. And Jorge can talk a little bit more about that. We're working together with the Instituto de Nueva Escuela. We're working with many organizations. And before, you know, that was not something that sometimes was really looked upon positively, especially within organizations that are doing exactly the same thing. But now, again, I want to learn what Guayacán is doing. I want to learn very well what Ciencia PR is doing. I want to learn because we are out there. We're talking to the people out there. And if it's something that someone like you can actually benefit from, that's what we want to do. We want to collaborate in all of these projects because it's over Puerto Rico.
And Ana raises a very important point. Something we quickly learned after the disaster is the saying we have in Puerto Rico, zapatero a su zapato, right?
Exactly.
Let's focus on what we can do best. What can PRXPR do better than anyone? What can Sagrado do better than anyone? What can the Boys and Girls Club, which is another important partner, can do better than anyone? Can the Fundación de Culebra, or for a better Puerto Rico in Culebra, can do better than anyone? And let's share information,
So
but there's also collaborate.
Let me ask you something, because many folks here might not be connected to an organization on the
Yeah.
ground or here, but they really want to do a lot. So I'm gonna say it in Spanish. Hacer lo que puedas con lo que tengas desde donde estás. Doing everything you can from wherever you're what you have. Nancy, could you comment a little bit on what that looks like from wherever you're purchased, wherever you work, whatever issue you're passionate about? What does it look like to transform that into help for Puerto Rico?
I think it's a really important question because people felt helpless those few weeks and months afterwards. And what we found, that people got very creative about how to plug in. So the education systems, all of a sudden schools were not only teaching about Puerto Rico and teaching about environmental science differently, but being able to plug in young people and do, you know, shadow classes with schools that had no resources in Puerto Rico, right? That's something, if you're a teacher, teach those pieces. I mean, if nothing else, that's huge. That's education, but I have room for everybody who produces materials. People who, I don't care if it's pencils that you're producing, we have people that can absorb them, right? So one of the things I want you to think about is there's the hands-on work and then there's the brain work. And the organizations that you touch every day, even if all you do in a meeting is ask the question, and what about Puerto Rico? That's huge, right? And so we're doing contracts and we're putting out resources and we're doing bids for X. Okay, do we have any Puerto Rican firms in here? Simple things, right? Procurements, you know, resources and materials. The one thing I will say is Puerto Rico has managed to use Facebook like nothing I've ever seen, right? All of the businesses now are utilizing just the Facebook page, right? Forget anything else. They have no websites up right now. None of that. It's all Facebook. So if you want to help Puerto Rican-owned businesses, they're all on Facebook. Go find them. There's even websites that tell you how to get supplies in and out, how to purchase equipment. And if you really still want to figure out how you just make a donation or do something, plug yourself into service trips. There are service trips out there, right? Get there. I wouldn't recommend the Red Cross, but that's Red Cross. I won't say that again. But there are other organizations you can plug into. The one thing I will say is do not negate the young people in your life, the opportunity to get involved. There are many ways for young people to get involved. And what I'm seeing right now is the ideas that we're getting from the young people on the ground are blowing my mind. So I sit on the board of Parallel 18, which is an organization that does accelerating companies to launch in Puerto Rico. When the hurricane hit, they said, okay, so the cohort of small startups that we have, we can't get the next generation in because we got too much we got to do at home. But how do we turn this same fund to help seed new ideas? So instead of doing the regular kind of cohort, the next new startups to come in that we mentored and work with, we put out a call for ideas. Any idea that you had that could help the situation in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, we will give you seed money. And the ideas that came in from young people would blow you away. From hydroponics to solar units to, you know, how to get people goods and services using like unemployed bus drivers, you name it, they had it. So we started to fund those small projects and seed them. There are many of them out there. Pay attention. I know a lot of us don't like to go online, been on all day long. Go. That's where all the chatter is happening. That's where the young people are putting information out. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that you can be doing, but I think the most important thing you can do is just stay plugged into some group and organization and share information in and out. I'm going to be trying to figure out if this, I don't know if the school or what organization can allow us to feed information into a specific place. I know a lot of people use Telegram as a way to kind of, you know, drop information. Maybe we do it that way, but I need to know what's out there. And I'm sifting through this stuff. Many of us are, right? Because
and Centro's created a fantastic database.
That's what I need to know. Is it up and
yeah, so they showcased it this morning, but we can connect you now after. And
that's what I'm hoping
growing
for.
And it's really great. I'm going to go back out to the audience.
And there was Will back there.
Preséntese primero.
Mi nombre es Lucy Cuadrado Peterson. Yo quería hablar de otras cosas, pero tu reto pues, me llamó la atención. Esto es una idea que hay que buscarle la viabilidad. Pero si Puerto Rico se preocupa tanto por darle incentivos a las industrias extranjeras para que inviertan allá, para crear empleos, y ahora después de María, sabemos cuando analizamos before and after, el impacto ha sido menor de lo que uno se imaginaba. Y si ese dinero vale para crear una ley 22 que le da a los ricos de este país el privilegio de invertir para ese sueño de crear empleo. Y mucha de la inversión en el real estate que nos está quitando el patrimonio del viejo San Juan, busquen en los periódicos, hacen una vueltecita por el viejo San Juan y vean cuántos anuncios hay para demolición y construcción y pinturas horrendas y hasta cambios en las fachadas que Ricardo Alegría estaría revolviéndose la tumba.
Y la idea es un incentivo para que nosotros mismos...
Ahí voy. Lo que yo les quisiera presentar a ustedes como reto es, imagínense si ese dinero vale, porque uno o dos individuos multimillonarios, vale lo mismo si nosotros somos los que invertimos esos dólares y no tenemos el dinero individualmente, pero lo tenemos colectivamente. Yo hice esta mañana un cálculo y 2 millones de boricuas, sin contar la diáspora de Iberoamérica y Latinoamérica y los amigos de Iberoamérica y cubanos que están aquí que nos ayudarían. Yo conté si cada uno de nosotros invierte $100 al mes, por 5 años son 12 billones de dólares. Hagan el cálculo. Yo tengo mi cheque aquí. Yo lo voy a poner. Y me comprometo 4 años donar $100 mensuales. Si cada uno de los que podemos hacer eso, 2 millones de boricuas nos convertimos en inversionistas y compramos la tierra del gobierno, que es de nosotros porque es pública, pero vamos a hacerla del pueblo, tierra del pueblo, con unos principios rectores que nadie pueda violar. Y esa tierra vamos a devolvérsela al pueblo de Puerto Rico para que el inversionista privado no vaya a construir hoteles donde no debe, a contaminar los ríos y a quitarnos la vida que es nuestra. Yo lo que creo es que debemos invertir dinero en la tierra nuestra y no que invierta el de afuera.
Gracias.
That's exactly what we're looking at in Hispanics and Philanthropy. It's exactly that. Building those funds.
Okay. I'm gonna do chair's prerogative, and I'm gonna ask Dr. Caban in the back to tell all of you what she's doing. She's doing very important work in mental health, and I want you to just take a minute to tell them.
Thank you for the panel. It's exciting to see how much the community empowerment movement and all of these nonprofits have developed. I used to donate for, there's like years ago when I didn't know what was going on. I left, and now I hear about all of this. So I'm the public relations manager for the organization Carrión-Silva. It's a very small organization of Puerto Rican psychiatrists in the diaspora. We have been working since 2014 on public mental health awareness projects and education. And after the hurricane, like a lot of Boricua doctors and health professionals, you might have heard about Doctoras Boricuas in Miami, who I collaborated with as well. We launched into disaster mode, and we turned our nonprofit into a disaster response organization pretty much. So we decided to work with empowering community leaders to process their trauma and work on several concepts of mental health to recover after a disaster. But mainly what we use is transformational resilience, which is basically what you were describing about using the adversity, growing from it, and empowering the community to find the resources to unite and to be stronger for the next event, not just go back to normal, which normal is not really functional for Puerto Rico, right? So we're trying to mix the basic work of mental health disaster responses with climate justice. We've worked with some organizations like Wakia, which are very small projects that are trying to empower self-sustainability in terms of having people learn how to plant, how to grow their own food, how to get access to resources from organizations that are involved with academia and other things. And we've given the piece of like emotional and mental health support to help them. So we've worked with several nonprofits, mainly PESES in Macau, Movimiento por una sola voz, Guaquia, and Vamos Puerto Rico. And we have developed a series of trips to go there and do the trainings ourselves, but now we're developing a network with the University of Puerto Rico residency program and other colleagues to start training more people that are locally there that can do this kind of work. And obviously we would like to expand to things that involve grant applications and more academic work to keep the process going, but trying to maintain the basis of community empowerment and giving the voices of the leaders a space to tell us what they need, not trying to go there and give a nice speech or get them to get psychiatric treatment, medications, and a little bit pat on the back without having the resources to really feel empowered and hopeful that their lives can get better. So we're trying to stay with that mission and maintain very grassroots. We are also collaborating on a little bit of more formal projects. We have a partnership with Academia de Directores Médicos de Puerto Rico and Mental Health Association of New York. We've been helping Mental Health Association of New York find a good partner in Puerto Rico locally to bring resources to train local practitioners in primary care and mental health to learn a model called collaborative care, which is basically designed to give more access to mental health care without having to literally consult or see a psychiatrist directly, but just being able to do it for primary care. So we're trying to work with FQACs, Federal Qualified Health Centers, or what they call in Puerto Rico las 330, la Clínica 330, which are the only ones that have the system to really make this project happen. It's a little bit more difficult with them stuff. So if you have any, if you want to further information.
On the subject of Diaspora solidarity and what you were raising about having a platform, we've created through a new venture such platforms called Puerto Ricans in USA through such channel. In Facebook already, you can register, please like us, help us, because we're helping today, donating our services and sponsoring this event. So Brusa channel is dedicated to inspire, entertain, and educate Puerto Ricans about Puerto Rican subjects in our events and parades and whatnot. So we'd like to offer a service to all of you that have nonprofits. Please send us your information. We'll publish it for free via flyer or via video, and we can talk about the details. We can perhaps help you out and guide you along the process. So you send it to us, we'll put it in for free. We'll help everybody that's helping the Puerto Rican community. That's what we're about. That's number one. Number two, and by the way, to introduce myself, Jose Rivera, as past president of the Puerto Rican, the Spanish Chamber of Commerce in Puerto Rico, and here Puerto Rican Initiative in Action in Brevard. And we met with the Spanish Chamber of Commerce when I was president there.
Yes.
So two other ideas that we can help the community. We're doing a pitch tank for new projects, new ideas with high school, college, and entrepreneurs in Florida. We're sponsoring it. They'll get mentorship and cash money, cash awards to help those that just came from Puerto Rico or are starting their business. I suggest other people consider doing the same. And the third thing we'd like to offer to all of you is regarding the idea of having a coalition, alliance, or partnership, strategic alliance of Chambers of Commerce of Puerto Rico. We have one now in Florida being instituted between Orange County, Osceola, West Palm Beach, Jacksonville, and Polk. So we're uniting all those chambers to help Puerto Rican businesses to support them in establishing or expanding. Thank you.
Mine will be really quick.
Okay.
My name is Jennifer Acosta, and I'm from
Yes, please.
Central Data Center. So if you guys have any projects or you want to announce your project, so if you go to our website, Rebuild Puerto Rico, behind your program, there's a directory there, so you can put the information with projects. So for example, if you have projects in Maya West or Ponce and you want to link up with other nonprofits or organizations, you have that information there, and you also have the location of where those projects are taking place. So it's behind the program, and it's in our new website. So you go directory and exchange, it's already available there. So it's like an online form, and it's free for everyone, and you know, you see the locations where people are doing the projects.
Okay, sure.
Muchas gracias. My name is Will Gonzalez from Philadelphia, organization called SEVA. And on Diaspora Solidarity, looking at advocacy, we can vote, and it's a lot of votes if we all turn out. We're also overextended, a lot of us, right? We're doing a lot, like I think Denise Spring just said, we're doing a lot, but we're not doing enough, right? And that's, on the philanthropy side of things, how are they looking at strengthening the bricks that we are? We're adding more like coordinators, organizers, so that some of that work gets done in terms of advocacy from here to help the advocacy.
On the philanthropic side, you'll find it not shocking that a lot of the larger foundations in this country didn't do deep work in Puerto Rico. That shouldn't shock anyone.
They don't want.
It should be upsetting. They didn't. This has shifted that. The problem is that because they don't have roots or connections or understanding of what's happening online, they're kind of going, so let's write a check to do an assessment. Let's do a white paper. And that's what I'm trying to stop. So part of the work that we're doing is quickly organizing these organizations that have now stepped up to say, we're here to help and we want to get engaged, to give them very either shovel-ready projects, actual hands-on things that they can do, or advocacy. So part of the other struggle that we have is really, we vote. Yes, we can vote. Do we vote, right? That's a big one. And even when we do.
Vote in the right.
In the right elections, exactly right. And when we do, how do we hold those elected officials once they are in their positions accountable, right? So part of the work that has to happen is the day-to-day projects that are going to make people's lives better. The other part of the work and the investments that we're working in trying to get the philanthropic sector to move in that direction is really about building civil society and social justice for Puerto Ricans, because what this has done, to your point, the positive is that it blew open for the world the inequities that exist for Puerto Ricans. So there's no hiding it anymore under party affiliations. There's no hiding it because we're off there somewhere. This blew it open for the world. So what we're trying to do with that is saying we have an opportunity. So we have an opportunity to change this narrative and start to build deep advocacy roots in a way that we've never done before. We are now going to be a voting bloc to contend with in the state of Florida. Look out.
And I think,
look out, right?
Yeah, and I think that, you know, I honestly thought, I was a little bit concerned that our, and mind you, I don't want to jinx this, but I thought that this was going to be like 3 to 6 months, maybe 6 months, and then it was going to be shut off, next story, and then that would be it. We still have, the way from where I stand, I've been surprised the window is still there and people are still looking on how to help Puerto Rico, not only from the Puerto Rican diaspora, but from many other, I mean, because things move slowly in many places, like from the foundation side, what I've seen, now it is that they're starting to understand. So I say that because from where I stand, what you can do, and I'll give you 3 examples how you can actually, if you want to come to Puerto Rico, what things that you can do with us, but I think from where you stand, it's continue to have the conversations and do the connections with the people that are out there on where you work, your family members. Like I said, I think it's half a degree of a connection. It's not 6 degrees. But from where I stand, and I know our time is very late. It's almost on to the end. People, the volunteer side of it. People can come for Naturaleza. We have many volunteer opportunities. Now, I invite all of you to come to Puerto Rico whenever, to have younger kids come to Puerto Rico and help us out and plant trees and do monitoring of water quality. People get educated. That is what we do. This is an opportunity for people to be educated on things like what you were saying, but people to really select an area and go and volunteer whatever you want to do. There's plenty, but do understand too that, you know, we just got hit by a major hurricane, so we're open. But, you know, there are going to be some organizations that might not be able to provide volunteer opportunities as fast as they can. In our case, we're open. We're ready to have everyone. You can go to their website and check. What else do we need? Obviously, the funding part of it, every organization needs, but also the land side. If anyone knows, has a lot of people right now, so fortunately left Puerto Rico, they want to donate their land, or they're looking, you know, obviously that's what we're looking to do, exactly save our land, protect our land. And then finally, I would invite all of you, choose a topic, choose an area if you haven't already, that you're interested in, and find the organizations that are doing that work in Puerto Rico, find their need, and see how you can connect them with other people. Because there is a lot of need, but if you try to help everyone, or if, you know, sometimes it's overwhelming. So if you are into mental health, I mean, you know, our organization right now, mental health is a huge issue. So what are we doing? We're trying to help the kids in our summer immersion programs for the kids. Everything is now related. What happened with Maria? How does this happen? And trying to explain to them how can we avoid, or how can we prepare for the next one.
Can I have a shout out? Back to advocacy, you have NBC right here. Nicole, can you raise your hand? I don't know if you guys have followed this, but we have 2 badass Boricuas at NBC who have not given up this fight. And the reason we're staying in the press is because folks like her are working on it, right? And so, but we have to keep we have to be the amplifier of those stories. And if we're using social media to talk about what we wore last night, that's the wrong thing. If you're going to be on social media, focus your efforts to do advocacy that way.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am with the hat.
Oh, hi, I'm the man with that.
Ma'am with the hat.
Christina Romero Carroll, Puerto Rican heritage raised by Puerto Rican grandparents who moved here in the 50s. And I donated my money. I didn't find any organization that could donate money. So my extended family members in Puerto Rico, I was like, I'm sending you guys money now. You can get it directly by yourself thing. Yeah, I was like, by yourself. Like, no. I'm going to donate it to an organization that I sent to them. My question is, I was watching on social media all the protests that were happening on May 1st. And I was wondering, have any of those people, do we have any of those representatives here today or tomorrow to talk about why they were, what that was all about? Because I look, you look at social media, photography, video, and you learn, but are any of them here to discuss, hey, this is why we were protesting in San Juan or anything like that? I was wondering anything like that.
So you can, Dr. Caban can talk to you offline a little bit about her connections to some of those organizations in Puerto Rico. I don't know if anybody else in the room, maybe.
Can I say, part of the protest, of course, was because of the privatization of the school, the closing of the schools. In Salinas, for example, 50% of the schools are slated for closure.
You mean like
half of the
universities or like schools where?
They're mostly elementary schools.
And then a 69% increase in tuition in the public universities.
And that's increasing 10% of the department.
So we're about to close. I'm gonna have Jorge say a final word.
Okay, just very quick, by a show of hands.
With cryptocurrency.
Yes.
Go ahead, Jorge.
By a show of hands, how many of you have managed a business? Managed a business or have had a business? We need you. Okay, how many of you are lawyers? How many of you are lawyers? We need you as well. How many of you have written a grant or applied for a grant of any sort? We need you, okay? The reason why I'm asking you is because you might not think that you can contribute in any meaningful way. Actually, every single one of you can, beyond money, as we've said earlier, with knowledge. One of the things we're doing is we're creating an organization called Lawyers for Puerto Rico. Why? Because we have learned that a lot of these nonprofit organizations and the ones that are emerging need legal assistance. How to file for a 501c3, for example. Many of those organizations need help to navigate the grant process. Not many of them know, so we're creating grantees or grant preparators for Puerto Rico so that we can help those nonprofit organizations help themselves. If you have a business or have managed a business or a nonprofit, we have a ton of micro entrepreneurs who need your help.
I would like to encourage the group, the Centro group, to do a specific panel on that if possible in Puerto Rico in June 15th.
On which?
Just about legal support.
Legal support.
Like ACLU, Eva Prado's group for Auditoría de la Deuda, just to discuss that because I'm very interested in that and they need to be empowered and united. I don't want that, I fear that we sometimes reinvent the wheel with multiple groups, but I'm hoping that you guys.
Perfect. So any lawyers, entrepreneurs, or grant applicators who want to see me after this? I'm all over.
And I'm sorry to be this person. But our time is up, so join me in giving these wonderful balance a hand.